Hello, and welcome back to the Nourisher Podcast, where we are celebrating the stories of women who dare to begin again, follow their intuition, and nourish the truest parts of themselves. Today's guest is an absolute radiant example of just that. Marissa Mack is someone whose presence alone feels like a deep exhale. She's warm, thoughtful, and grounded. She's the kind of woman who makes you feel instantly seen. What many may not realize is before launching her new aesthetics practice, she held a doctorate in international psychology, supported pediatric oncology patients, taught college students, worked with refugees, and raised a daughter, all while quietly carrying the weight of transition, sacrifice, and reinvention. But when the world slowed down during COVID, Marissa finally paused to ask herself, what do I want now? And in answering that question, she did something incredibly brave. She started over. With the loving support of her family and a spark that had always been there, she leaned into her lifelong love of skincare and healing touch. And today, she is the founder of Skin Glow by Marissa, offering not just facials, but deeply restorative experiences for women who, like her, have held so much for other people. This is a story about resilience, rediscovery, and doing something just for yourself, even if the world tells you that you don't have to. And I promise by the end of this episode, you're going to feel like you've known Marissa forever. So with that, let's get into it. Hi, Marissa. Thank you so much for being on the Nourisher Podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
You're just an absolute light. Every time I see you or every time me and Dorlin will mention your name, I'm like, oh, I just love her so much.
I appreciate that. And I feel the same. So ditto.
Yay.
Back to you both.
Well, Marissa, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're kind of new to the area, so I kind of want to hear where you've been and how you got here and what you're doing now.
All right. So my journey started in Illinois for school. Went to college there. I was born in the Caribbean. So coming to the United States for school, did my undergrad and graduate work in Illinois and PhD work actually in Chicago. Studied psychology and got my PhD in international psychology. My first job was at actually the top children's hospital in Chicago, and it still is, working in oncology, pediatric oncology. So that was, I always knew I wanted to work with people with, initially I thought children, and so I thought this was great, working in pediatrics and working with amazing physicians, the whole spectrum of oncology. I was a child life specialist, so when a patient came in, I would talk to them, talk to the family based on their developmental levels so that they could understand their diagnosis. Just very rewarding, painful at times, because when I meant the whole spectrum, of course, you know, with cancer, it also encompasses end of life. So I would be families through that time as well, working with siblings and helping them say goodbye to their loved ones. So I did that for 8 years. And then my husband is an anesthesiologist. His first job he got in Wyoming. So we ventured off there, and an adventure it was, because leaving Chicago to Wyoming, very different pace of life, culture shock.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But thank goodness, we were very close to Salt Lake City. So that was sort of my escape into the city life and being able to do things that I normally would do or I missed in Chicago. But we lived and worked in Wyoming. When I moved there, there was no children's hospital. So I was not sure where that would take me. But it eventually took me back to my field of psychology. I was a professor at a community college there for 6 years and love that work. I love working with college-age students. And I did a lot of programming for the college, bringing in speakers from all around the globe. So it was very fulfilling. My daughter, Haya, was born there, and we loved it there. I mean, we lived there for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So we, being in the medical field, you're sort of moving around a little. My husband, Brandon, ended up taking a position in Liberal, Kansas. Amarillo was sort of the happy medium where we could move here, and Haya was at such a young age that I wanted her to be able to go to a good school and have an amazing social life and just be able to grow. And Amarillo was a good baseline for that. And so we're into our 7th year here, loving it. I think we have everything that we need here, and people are so wonderful. So here we are. And currently, gosh, when I moved here, I thought, what am I going to do now? I finished my PhD in international psych, and I was doing some consulting for, a lot of my work was also with refugee populations. So I was doing some consulting work for some NGOs in Berlin, South Africa, and then we moved here, and then COVID hit, and I thought, it was really a time, and I think a lot of people were doing that when COVID hit, a lot of self-reflection, what's important in life. I was reading so many articles. There were like $1 million stockbrokers that were just, rethinking what they wanted and their purpose in life. And one became a chef, and it was so fulfilling. And, I thought, it's a good time to take stock and think about what I wanted. Moving here, I had to sacrifice a lot. I wasn't working as much, and my husband was traveling for work, and I thought, gosh, what's next? What else in this life can I do that I love? And aesthetics was sort of always in the background, skincare. I always loved giving facials, even though I had no clue what I was doing at the time. But as a little girl, I would always play in my mom's or steal her skincare and her expensive products that she would have to hide from me. The timing was proved right, and last year an amazing esthetician school opened up in Amarillo, and I took the chance, enrolled. It was a 5-month program, and so I'm a medical esthetician now.
I love that. I do agree with you. I think COVID did so many things for so many people, good and bad, of course. But when you have that much time on your hands and you're needing to distract yourself in certain ways, I think a lot of people did stop and take stock of what matters to me. Do I want to keep living this life that I've known, and what would actually fulfill me? I know that happened for me too. So I love your story. I think it's amazing because I wasn't aware that you had your PhD until a friend told me about it. And I was like, what? And it just reminded me how much we don't know about each other. Unless we get to sit down and do this, right? Not necessarily on a podcast, but and I think as a person, I'm not one to announce the fact, it's just something I did for myself. And so it was fulfilling. And most of my classmates didn't even know either when going into esthetician school. And I didn't want to come in there, seeming like I was above. And I just wanted to come in there on an even playing field and just go with the flow. Right. And it makes you so much more relatable that way. Because I feel like if I was in class with someone who had a PhD, I'm like, I'm never going to speak in front of them ever.
Yes.
They're going to tear me apart. You really kind of walked us through how you got to starting your aesthetics journey. But when you moved to Amarillo and you didn't necessarily have a direction for where you were going, I guess, professionally, what did life look like for you in the in-between, let's say in the last 7 years before you were able to start aesthetics? I mean, emotionally, physically.
Completing a PhD, going through that process was such an intense time in my life. I was working full-time as a professor, and I was also a mother to a very young child, and my husband was starting off as a physician, so hours were crazy, and it was, I would say, emotionally taxing. But my husband and I have done a really good job about, being there for each other, and my family too. My parents, my sister, they're here with me now, but visiting. But they've been such just amazing in terms of helping support. They would come visit, help with my daughter. if I had to travel sometimes for work. So having them there was so reassuring. My husband and I, we really, I think that's the psychologist in me, is always talking about how we can be there to support each other. So we're very vocal about speaking out about how I can support him, how he can support me. But going through a PhD program is definitely not for the weak-hearted.
Oh, I couldn't imagine.
Especially working a full-time job and being a mom to a very young daughter. When we moved here, that in-between time, I was really being a mom full-time, and my work sort of took a background because I wasn't sure what I could do here. Mm-hmm. I didn't know anyone. We had no family. So it was like starting fresh. I wasn't sure where to begin, what to do, what the resources were here. All I knew was that I had enrolled her in school. We had bought a new home, and that was it. And then my husband was off working. So it was intense as well, and just sad for a bit because I didn't know anyone, and it was very lonely. I didn't know about parenting groups, or she was going to St. Mary's when we moved here, and trying to build relationships in that classroom with parents. That's kind of how I started to try to get involved and meet people, and I joined the gym, and that was so good for my emotional health, mental health, just to stay active. And yeah, it was lonely, definitely.
I definitely think that's something that we don't always talk about. Yes. When it comes to starting a new adventure. Yes. And how lonely that can be. And, even when we're in a stage of emotional healing too, I think that's something where it's that's very hard, very lonely, and it's up and it's down. It's up and down. Yes, and you have all these wonderful things. And I think when things are happening for your family, but not necessarily for you, because you're kind of behind the scenes making it all happen. Yes. That's so heavy.
It was very heavy. And, as I reflect now, I think, during that time, I really lost a little bit of, of who I was. My identity was, I sacrificed a lot to just make it work here, because I knew we were wanting to be here for a while. We loved the community. We could see ourselves raising our daughter, and now she's 15, going to high school. And so it's been wonderful. But the steps to get where we are now was surely, it was difficult for me. Much better now, we'll get to that. But I sort of lost a little bit of myself there for a minute.
I think a lot of people will relate with that part of your story. Yes. In those moments where you were thinking about your purpose, mm-hmm. what about aesthetics were you so attracted to?
I would say it's always been there. My mom, at a very young age, when we were 14, 15 years old, she was very big on us getting facials and taking care of our skin, and especially raising two young girls, two women. Skincare, hygiene was very important. In speaking with some of my clients now, and, not to bash on anyone, but there are a lot of young girls growing up that don't get that. So I felt so fortunate from such a young age to be in that world. We would be getting monthly facials, massages, meditation. I mean, it was amazing how we were raised. But it's always been there, Kayla, following blogs, beauty blogs, following makeup artists from around the world, and that eventually fell back to skincare. If I would travel, I would hit up all the local pharmacies to see sort of what was happening there. I wasn't really into the big brand names of things. I really was initially more into homemade remedies for things. And I think that's part of growing up in the Caribbean. We don't always go to a pharmacy first. It's always what can we make at home to sort of fix or help something? But eventually, just traveling and investigating what, Italians use for their skincare, or the French, or following those types of blogs, and social media came out, and looking at Instagram posts and following major estheticians and kind of seeing what was out there really is what helped fuel this fire for aesthetics and wanting to go into it, but sort of create my own spin.
Well, and we take so much inspiration from other people that we see who have already, gotten into it. And when people have the ability to say, okay, I want to do that, but I want to do it differently, that's always a really great gift that not everybody has.
Sure. I think some of it is really innate. I've been so lucky to train with some amazing master estheticians. And one of the comments I always get is that, the flow of your hand, it's so natural. That's something that you can't teach. It's like, with someone playing tennis. I remember when my daughter started and her coach said, she's fast, and so she's going to be really good. I can't teach her speed. It has to come or it doesn't come, And so I felt that. I felt so wonderful when my, mentors would say, you really do have an innate gift. That just validated that I was doing the right or pursuing the right field.
Yes, I'm sure that's so reassuring too, especially when you're doing something new. That's so scary. Yes. So what was the defining moment for you that was like, okay, I really love aesthetics. I think that I would like to pursue, my passion. But what was the point for you where you're like, okay, I'm doing it?
My husband and I were taking a drive. I think we were going into Rafkin's, and I looked over next door and it said the Dallas Skin Institute. And I thought, what is this? And I looked it up on the spot and I said to him, Brandon, this is an aesthetic school. It's coming to Amarillo. I've looked into aesthetic schools before and that would require me moving somewhere. Like we didn't have, like a school in Amarillo for aesthetics and medical grade aesthetics.
Right.
And so I called up immediately. He's like, this is amazing. The timing is perfect. Haya's going into high school. I mean, it's like the stars have aligned. And he was so supportive, and my daughter was so supportive. I told my parents, and they were like, do it. So I called up. I went to their open house. I met with the amazing director of the school, the owner, Patsy Charles, and it just, when you just have that feeling that this is it, this feels right. And I just, like the Nike commercial says, you just do it.
You just got to do it. It's so odd because I think that's a theme on the podcast so far, is that when we do start pursuing things that actually fulfill us and our passion, it's really weird how things just fall into place for you.
I really could not have planned it. I think if I had sat down and planned it out, like it probably would not have worked out for me. It just, that's just how it all unfolded. But I'm so grateful that, first of all, that they accepted me into the school. We were one of 7 for that first class. And so we were the guinea pigs. Their teachers were flying from Dallas and back and forth to Amarillo to be our instructors, and it really was just an amazing program.
What's crazy is I remember seeing your posts when you were going through training, and it said Dallas Skin Institute. And I'm like, oh, Marissa's in Dallas doing this training. I had no idea it was here.
Yes.
And so that also probably made it much more accessible, where you didn't have to be away from your family, and being able to do it so close to home, I'm sure just made the world of difference.
Yes. Well, and I don't know if you know this little tidbit of why Patsy Charles opened up the Dallas Skin Institute, but she had a student by the name of Avery Hopper, and she was killed, but she was a student at the Dallas Skin Institute in Dallas, single mom, and she was killed, and Patsy Charles opened up this school as sort of a tribute to her and her family.
Oh, wow.
And so when it's hair raising. My pores are like, my hair is raising as I tell it. And I thought, you know what? I'm all about that sort of, that not just being a tribute, but the thought process that went in behind doing something amazing. She took a big risk opening up a school here. And so far it's been paying off. But I think the reason behind it is so magical and so powerful.
Yeah, of course. When you open something from your heart, then it's
Yes.
kind of bound to be successful.
Yes, exactly.
Like a lot of people might wonder why, because of your family situation and maybe the fact that you moved to Amarillo and you weren't necessarily in a position to where you had to work. And so a lot of people would question, I mean, staying home is not for everyone.
Sure.
It could never be me. But a lot of people might wonder why you actually chose to work when you didn't have to. Like, what's something that you would say to people who ask that question of you?
I think it really goes back to having my own identity outside of being a mother and wife. I was raised that way. I remember when I was going off to college and, as my mom was talking to me about, eventually meeting someone, getting married, she said to me, and it's always stuck with me, she says, always have your own thing, whether it's your own bank account, your identity, but always have your own thing. And she meant have your own identity. You can be a wife, you can be a mother, but what about what you want for yourself? All those things are lovely, and I love being a mom and a wife, but, there are other things that I wanted for myself. And so this has made me such a better mother and wife because I'm so much happier. And I think it set such an amazing example for my young daughter. She's 15, and she sees me, doing something that I love, and I wish that for her. It's such an amazing example of you can do all the things, but for yourself to be truly happy, I think you have to find in life what you love the most and pursue it.
That's amazing advice. You said your mother told you that?
Yes, my mother has. Yeah, she's amazing.
Yes, what a great piece of advice.
Yes.
I think we hear often have your own bank account a lot, but I really like have your own thing.
Yes.
And I tell my sister all the time, you are a mom,
yes.
but that's not all you are.
Exactly.
And so
You're not just defined by that role. There's so many other powerful things for us, especially as women. And having a great support group, I was so supported. But yeah, I did get that question. Why do you want to work? Your husband's a doctor. And I always say, well, I'm a doctor too. But I just wanted more for myself. And, going back to COVID, life is short. Why not try to pursue all the things that you love in this life? Because you just never know, what tomorrow may bring.
Exactly. Well, and I know it takes courage, really, and I'm not a mother, so I'd love to hear it from your perspective, but I'm sure the transition to I'm finally going to do something that I want to do, and that's for me, is not, that's not an easy path to walk. Sure. And so how you get from the point of I want to be a little selfish, and then I'm here, I'm doing it, I'm a better person, I'm a better mom, wife for it.
Yes.
What fears, doubts, or any kind of limiting beliefs did you have to overcome in order to get to this point today?
Sure. There was some judgment. I heard little rumblings. People would say, well, you're already a doctor. Why do you want to become an esthetician? And, that did not bother me. My biggest fear was that I was going to fail at this. Mm-hmm. Like, what am I doing? I've already gone through school. I'm going back to school. But I knew deep down in my soul that I was going to be good. Like, I was going to do this, and it was going to be amazing. And I really think having those reinforcing thoughts, and then having an amazing support system. My husband was and has been amazing throughout all of this. He really has been, and I think that's so important when your spouse is able to lift you up in that way. And so is my daughter. I mean, they had to make some sacrifices. I was full days in school. I mean, it was 5 months, and we knew that we all had to pull together a little tighter. And my husband changed his schedules a little bit so he could be home more. And we knew for those 5 months it was going to be a sacrifice. But at the end, 5 months is really not a long time if you think about it, But when you're in it, it seems like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? But at the end of it, I can't even tell you, I cannot even describe the feeling of fulfillment and the fact that I've done it, that I did it, and I am doing it. And it's growing, and clients are loving the experiences. And gosh, I even had a text from a client yesterday, and she said, I'm so grateful that you're here in Amarillo. And I thought, if I never had another client, I did it. I did it. I did what I set out to do.
Yeah, your marker. Yeah, making people feel good is an entirely different sense of accomplishment.
It really is. And I have been in service to others for so long, whether it was in oncology, working with refugees, teaching college students. I was always giving of myself, being a mother, a wife. My husband was, a physician. It's hard being a physician's wife, and, a lot of lonely days, lonely nights. But now it's my time. Now is my time, and I get to give to myself as much as I'm giving back now.
Right. Oh, I love that. It's my time. I love that so much. Well, is there anything that surprised you maybe about yourself during this entire journey?
I really will have to say just my strength, inner strength, the ability to be adaptable and, flexible with moving and starting a new life in two different places. We bounced from Chicago to Wyoming to here now in Amarillo, but also being very resilient when things were rough. And, I guess it's good having a psych background because you get to, have the talks with yourself, and you come out the other side of it a little bit stronger. But yeah, I would say the main point of all of this was just to be stronger and know that I can really deal with anything that life can throw at me.
And what an example, like you said, for your daughter as well.
Oh yeah.
So.
She tells me that she's so proud of me, and your heart just flutters when you hear words like that from your kiddo, because all you want for them is for them to be their best. But when you're at your best, I feel like you can give so much more.
Sure.
And be so much better for them and for yourself.
Okay, well, let's talk about your new business.
Okay.
The aesthetics part of Marissa. You have such a warm, empathetic presence, and I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the work that you've done in the past. But how did you want that to kind of shape the way that you provide service?
I wanted to provide a space for clients when they walked into my room that they can really just let go. The majority of my clients are mothers, women, and I cannot tell you the most powerful feeling for me as an esthetician when they're on my table and they just sink into my bed and they breathe that sigh of relief. I mean, it's hair-raising for me, because I know that, to touch someone's skin is such an intimate experience, and I never take that for granted. My whole basis of doing what I wanted to do was also to bring the sense of connection with my client. I've had so many facials where I felt disconnected from the person that was giving me a facial. They'd put a mask on and leave the room. And, I really just wanted to have that connection, whether it was an hour, constantly touching, releasing tension, just have that connection with them on the table. Even if, I would say 99% of the time they fall asleep, because
it's hard not to.
Which tells me they have walked into my space and they've really let go. But that's all I wanted. I really wanted, and of course, providing an amazing skincare experience. My focus is really on lymphatic massage, and I really love sculpting and lifting the skin with my hands. I'll use machines when I have to, but 90% of my work is hand-based. And another class that I just came back from a training in Colorado on lymphatic drainage, and the main theme there was the power is in your hands. We hold so much power in our hands. When we touch someone, if someone's going through a hard time and you just put your hand on their shoulder, it just almost, immediately relieves them. But I wanted to base my practice on connection and just having a safe space where clients can come and just let go for an hour or so and not think about what they're cooking for dinner or that they have school pickup or, and I would say it's been wonderful that they've been able to do that. Tells me I'm doing my job.
Anytime that I get a facial or dermaplane or, anything that has to do with just taking a second to sit down and not think about anything except for how good my face feels.
Yes.
It makes the world of difference. It's almost a reset. And it's amazing too, I think, how just taking those few moments gives us a little bit more confidence as well. Yes. And we start to feel more beautiful. Yes. And so I think so often we think about beauty and how it relates to makeup and hair but taking care of your skin is a whole different level of beautiful.
Oh, yes. One of my clients said to me, oh my goodness, I've come off your bed and I feel so much lighter. And yeah, we did some lymphatic drainage. So, of course, it was maybe fluid lighter, but she also meant lighter in a sense that emotionally and mentally. And I thought, that's such a big win for me.
Yes.
That's all I could ever ask for.
So much better than a Google review. Yes. I mean, you need those too.
Exactly.
But exactly. Yeah, I love those words of affirmation.
Yes.
I'm curious to hear kind of your definition of what beauty actually means to you.
Beauty. Whew. It's such a multifaceted concept, right? You think about it. For me, beauty is defined from the soul. I can look at someone and I can say, oh man, she's really beautiful. But, when I think about what beauty means to me and when I meet beautiful people and I have such beautiful friends, it's not just at face value. It's really something deeper for me. It really is going to the soul. And I think when you have a beautiful soul, it radiates and it makes a person beautiful,
I agree so much. Yeah, I feel like right now, especially, and you might be able to speak to this having a 15-year-old daughter. I mean, we have social media, we have access to so many beautiful people around the world, and we see so many different types of beauty, but a lot of that is very exterior, and we just see the surface. Yes. And we've really been conditioned to feel like the exterior is what attracts people to you. Yes. But when you're happy, that makes a huge difference. Yes. When you truly in your soul, like connect with people and love people deeply and transparency. I mean, it just takes your beauty to another level.
Exactly.
And I've really had to stop and think, all of the beautiful friends and people that I know and who I truly see them as beautiful people. Yes. I'm like, if I just saw them and didn't know anything about them, would I still think the same thing?
Sure.
And every time I go back to, I don't know that I would think that, but that makes me appreciate them and their beauty so much more.
Definitely. There's such a different aura when someone is genuinely their authentic self. They move differently. They speak differently. The energy they radiate is so different than when someone's not.
Right. And how do you, having a 15-year-old daughter, that's a very, you're so impressionable at that time.
Yes.
So just based on what you're doing, what you're seeing, and kind of how you define beauty, how are you hopeful in the way that it teaches Haya what true beauty is?
I'm so impressed with her. I think a lot of it has to do with raising an only child. She's so much wiser than her years. Mm-hmm. And we've been very open with her. Of course, appropriately so.
Sure.
And And we never back down from questions or anything that she has to ask for us. But she is, she's not your typical 15-year-old. And I'm so grateful for that. And I think maybe some of that has to do with, my psych background, my husband being in medicine. And she is really her own person. And she does not have to go with the flow of everyone else. She dances to her own beat. And I think about myself at that age, and I thought, man, I would love to have a friend like her because she's just so unique. And I'm not saying that she doesn't get fazed by teenage things and, moods and hormones and all the things, but she's just so strong-willed and she has her own individuality. And so she doesn't have to mingle with a lot of people. She can vibe by herself and just be content and she knows what she wants and she's a go-getter. And who knows what's going to come in the future, but she's just truly a unique teenager.
I remember the first time I met both you and Haya, and I remember, and I don't know if I was in a very different place in life,
Sure.
But I don't know if it was just the energy and the inner peace that I felt from you guys. But I remember when y'all left, I was like, they are the most beautiful people I've ever seen in my life.
So funny.
But I feel like every time.
And funny you say that because that was a nerve-wracking time for us when we took that tour. I was so nervous. And what was I doing the right thing? And I was moving her from one school to the next and taking away, her friends. And I'm so glad we did. But boy, I'm so glad you didn't feel that. You were touring because I was like, oh my goodness, am I really doing? It was such a time of pressure for me.
Yes, I didn't feel that at all.
Okay, good.
I did not feel the chaos.
Good.
And I think that it really just speaks to when you encounter genuine people. Mm. I've experienced that a lot in the last couple of years and meeting Jonathan. I mean, that was the first time that I've ever met someone and I'm like, whoa, this feels intense. Yes. And now I'm recognizing the difference, So I think that's what it was for me meeting you guys. It's just that I could feel that you're genuine and you have such a big heart. And so I am just so happy that you're taking time to do something for yourself and you're pursuing your passion.
Thank you.
And it probably doesn't feel too much like work.
I was so scared, when I was done with school and I'm thinking about how I'm going to curate this business. And, I very specifically picked out the skincare lines I wanted to carry, the machines, the way I would move with my clients, the menus, what I was going to offer. And I really wanted it to be a little bit more holistic in nature because growing up in the Caribbean, we grow up like that. At least I did. Like I go back to the fact that we do a lot of remedies at home and going back to my grandmother, I mean, she was always mixing up something for us to drink, or if you're sick, you drink this plant. And, so I wanted to sort of incorporate a little bit of that in my business and how I would curate, my services for my clients. And I was just hoping and praying that I would get a client. And so when my first client booked, I was so grateful. And I'm so thankful that word of mouth, Amarillo is, it's a big place for many, but it's a smaller place in terms of referrals and word of mouth. So things are going well. The referrals are coming in and business is getting busier, but it really does not feel like work. It really is a chance for me to also let go in that space and just be 100% present for my client on the table.
I'm going to have to pick your brain at some point about these natural remedies. There was that kiosk in the mall for the longest time where they, it was like the Dead Sea scrub and things like that. And they would always get me and I'm like, this isn't real.
Gosh.
This isn't.
I know. No eye contact. Keep walking.
I'm fine, really. Thank you. Please stop telling me how bad my skin looks. Thank you.
That's so funny.
So yes, that might be a whole different conversation about natural remedies and things like that. But I always end the podcast, I ask all of my guests the same 2 questions. Okay. So I'm curious to hear yours. We've learned a lot about you today, so I don't know what your answer will be, but is there one thing that most people may not know about you?
Most people may not know that I was not born in the United States, that I am actually Trinidadian. So I was born in the Caribbean. People, when they see me, even when we travel, they can never place. They always say, oh, your look is so different. Are you Indian? Are you this? Are you from... We were just in Italy, my husband and I, and some guys there thought I was from Dubai. So it's so funny. And they thought he was like from Spain. And so it's nice, I guess, to sort of have that look. But yeah, born and raised in the Caribbean and moved to the United States when I was 18 years old for school. 18.
Okay. So you did, that was my next question, is if you had great exposure to both cultures.
Oh, amazing. Yes. I mean, I was a little culture shock. An 18-year-old starting a brand new university here, and, time, and I was tired, and the time difference and the new curriculum and routine, and I was alone. I had no family. So going back to strength, I had to pull out everything that I was taught, and to be an 18-year-old freshman in a whole new country was just, but I'm so grateful for that experience because it's really shaped the person that I am now. And my parents sacrificed so much for me to come here, and leaving my entire family was back in Trinidad. My sister, I just have one younger sister, and to just leave her was so hard, so yeah.
Are there any similarities between where you come from and when you came to the United States, and then maybe what the biggest difference is?
Biggest difference, I would say, I grew up, Trinidad is very diverse. You can walk down the street and you'll hear a different language. We have Syrians, Chinese, Africans, a lot of Indians. So it's just such a melting pot. So I would say coming to a small town university in Illinois where pig farming was the big thing. Culture shock.
Yes.
Cold. I'd never experienced winter, so I had my first snow. And I remember my mom, we were shopping, trying to figure out, how are we going to deal with the cold weather? And she bought me the biggest, puffiest coat ever in my life. But she was just wanting to make sure that I was warm, because coming from a warm climate, I'm in Illinois, freezing cold. Similarities. Gosh, that's a tough one. I think everything's so different there. Food's different. People are different. Our accent's different. Yeah, I don't know, Kayla. I never thought of that.
I know. That would be a hard one, I think, because it is, like you said, climate-wise, culture-wise, food,
it's
language.
So different, so different. Even people are like, don't you have an accent? And I do, but it only comes out when I speak to my family. It's still English.
Sure.
It's just Trinidadian, like the intonation. And I can't do it. We'll speak it. It's so hard because I've been so acclimated to, speaking where I could be understood here. Mm-hmm. Our accent is so different. It's very fast-paced. We have a lot of broken language in terms of slang, and that they would understand. My roommate in college thought I spoke it entirely differently.
You're like, it's English.
It's English.
That's so funny. Who would you say are 3 women who inspire you?
First, definitely my mom. She raised me to be so independent and strong, and just value my self-identity. Mm-hmm. So I gain a lot of that from her, and I have so much respect for her for raising me like that. The second would be Shawnee Darden. So Shawnee Darden is a celebrity esthetician, And I started following her when I was thinking about going on this journey of aesthetics. And I've actually been to her studio in LA. I've been able to get a service with her, and in her studio. And she's just amazing. Like, she's a woman of color. She went through a lot of skin issues growing up. She was, bullied, and because she's Black, but she's lighter skinned. She wasn't sure where she fit in. And then, she's a celebrity esthetician. She has an amazing skincare line. She treats clients like Jessica Alba and, does stuff for the Met Galas. And one of the estheticians there has been an amazing mentor to me, Brittany. And when starting this journey and going to her studio and getting a facial there, I thought, I would really like to curate something very similar to this, offer sort of the same high-end experience, but in Amarillo. Mm-hmm. So Shani Darden and her team, just amazing. I was so fortunate to be able to experience that service and having them mentor me. And then the third, when I was teaching in Wyoming, as a psychology professor, I really wanted to open up the eyes of my students. There were a lot of my students that had never traveled outside of Wyoming, much less the United States. So as a teacher, I wanted them to experience and be exposed to different cultures and speakers. And I was so fortunate to be able to bring in, her name is Shabana Basij Rasik. And she was the founder of an all-girls school in Afghanistan, the first all-girls school. And if you know anything about Afghanistan, women were not allowed to be educated. And so her parents, fortunately, they pushed for her and her sisters to become educated. They would have to go to a secret school. And sometimes she would have to dress as a boy so that, the Taliban would not follow her, and, that they could be killed for going to get an education. Mm-hmm. And so she is an amazing powerhouse and created this school for girls. And I was fortunate to meet her and invite her to Wyoming to speak. And it was sold out. It almost created a fire hazard at the college because of how many people showed up.
Oh, wow.
But I was so fortunate to be, because I'm, having a daughter, girls' education is so important for me. I always believe that you educate a girl and you can change the world. Women are so powerful in this world. And given the right opportunities, we really can impact an economy. And so meeting her was just truly life-changing. She had to actually move her school out of Afghanistan now that the Taliban's back in power. So she's based now in Rwanda. If you look up TED Talks and you look up Shabana Basij Rasik, just amazing. Just amazing. She tells her story. And that's the TED Talk I listened to. Then I thought, I have to have her come and speak to our small college in Wyoming, and she did.
I'm definitely going to have to go watch that.
Yes.
You've had so many cool experiences and met so many amazing people. I'm very jealous. But I'm sure, just her being such a humanitarian and paving the way for women in her culture, it's one of those things where there's so many lessons to be learned in her message.
Yes. And my students walked away, I think everyone in that community was touched by, just being an advocate for women in education. I think another difference, if we could go back to that, is I think a lot of people take for granted the things that we have in this life. And I think travel is such an eye-opener for just being grateful for all the things that you have. And I've been very fortunate to expose my daughter to, how other people live, and just being so grateful that you can have shoes to wear to school or more than one pair, and, just always be humble, because there's so many people that don't have opportunities like we do.
Absolutely. Well, Marissa, I want to give you an opportunity to tell people where to follow you, where to find your work, and anything else you would like to tell us about your business.
Thank you. So I'm on Instagram. It's skin.glow by Marissa. Skin Glow is the name of my business. I'm currently at the Muse next door off of Hillside, so 7620 Hillside, Suite 111. I'm excited to continue to meet new clients and continue to grow and become better and better for my clients each day.
And if you need proof that she knows what she's talking about, you should just look at her skin because it looks so amazing.
Thank you. I'm so lucky that I get to try everything.
It's like going to a makeup
and
artist.
I really do try everything because I feel like that is just doing service to my clients. So I can tell them how it feels, how it may react, what it does. Yeah.
Oh, of course. You have to. When I worked at a spa and they would ask me about a product that I haven't tried, I'm like, here's what I know.
Yes.
Here's the selling points. Yes. But I have not personally used this under eye cream, so it's probably a good thing that
I've tried everything.
Yes. Well, Marissa, thank you so much. I loved having you.
Thank you. And thank you. Congratulations on this podcast. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yes, and being newly married. Congratulations.
Yes. Life changes for sure.
Yes. Thank you.
Marissa's story is such a beautiful reminder that it is never too late to start over, to follow a passion, or just to choose yourself, not in spite of everything you've done, but because of it. If her journey moved you, we'd really love for you to help us grow this community of heart sharers. Take a moment to follow us on Instagram at the Nourisher Pod. And if you haven't already, please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Your support is helping more women find these conversations and hopefully feeling a little less alone in theirs. Thank you for being here. I can't wait to show you what's next. Until next time, stay strong, stay connected, and keep growing.